Hey friends, Tanette here. So, got some sad news today from Facebook that a friend, Eric DeCoster, had passed away from COVID. And he was a person that I had never met and didn't really probably expect to ever meet him in person. We became Facebook friends during the Bernie 2015-16 campaign, and he was just a warrior for the people, just funny and caring and lovable, and I just can't believe that he is gone. Anyways, I just wanted to say that if you think that you don't matter or people aren't listening or they don't care, Eric's a perfect example of someone who made a difference, I'm sure, to thousands of people. Anyways, to his family and friends that knew him in real life, my condolences, and I'm going to really miss him. Okay, so on to normal conversations. There's a lot of discussions going on about, the Democrats passing this COVID bill and this narrative that, it's going to reduce childhood poverty by 50% and such. And I just am really, we need to lock arms. The citizens of this nation need to take off their red and blue jerseys or their green jerseys or their I don't give a shit jersey or I'm too tired to fight anymore jersey. And we need to lock arms as the working class in America. And you are working class if you are working for somebody. You are working class if you're a small business owner, because we are talking about fighting against the corporate-owned United States of America. We are fighting against the monopolies that live here, the systemic racism that lives here, the poverty and food insecurity and housing insecurity that so many millions and millions of Americans are living with, to the immigrants who are coming here for a better life. We need to start having honest conversations about what we can do as a nation and what we can't do as a nation. We need to stop pointing fingers at the others as the cause of us not having enough jobs or people not making enough wages. The cost of college is up by like 600%. The cost of housing is up by like 40% over a 20-year period. It's the cost of these things has become astronomical. The cost of healthcare is astronomical. And so we need to understand MMT. We need to understand what the national debt means, what it actually is, and why it's nothing to be afraid of. So, in layman's terms, the national debt, it represents the amount of dollars that have been spent in our economy minus the amount of taxes that have been accepted or returned to the federal government. So if the federal government spends $1,000 and they collect back $100 in taxes, then there is a national debt of $900. And this debt does not need to be paid back. It does not It is not owed to anybody. It doesn't belong to the Chinese. When they talk about us borrowing money from China or this and that, it's baloney. They talk about us borrowing money. When we sell treasuries, we are selling, the federal government raises up its hand and says, hello, citizens, I have a bond and I will pay you X amount of dollars in interest. I'll pay you this interest rate for this amount of time period, yada, yada, yada. And the people that buy these bonds, they already own US dollars. So it is just a swap. It's a person holding US dollars that wants a safe financial investment. The treasuries are sold in equal amount to the spending that's done. So when we spend $100, they put up their hand and sell a bond for $100. So $100 goes into the economy, into some sector. Let's say it went into the military. $100 goes into the military, and then they try to pull out $100 by way of temporarily pulling it out of the economy by way of treasuries and from a rich person. But these treasuries don't need to be sold if they don't want to be sold. It's not part of the Constitution that they have to sell these. This is a rule that we chose to make up, and we keep choosing to use this rule. And this is the national debt and the interest on the debt and blah, blah, blah. These are treasury bonds. These are financial instruments that are sold to big funds, big mutual funds, big people that have a lot of money buy a lot of these things because it's safe. The federal government is not going to default on its own currency that it creates out of thin air. So when the Democrats and Republicans are arguing over freaking $1,400, when the Democrats promised $2,000, and they're arguing about $600 being given to the citizens of this nation during the middle of a pandemic, in which case they should be getting monthly checks. People should be getting a monthly check to stay home. If the federal government won't allow them to work, then they should be getting compensated for that mandate. And these people who own restaurants, work in the service sector, do whatever it is kind of business that can't be done because of COVID, or is being severely impacted because of COVID, they need to get paid. And there is no reason, the taxpayers don't need to foot the bill. This money can get created out of thin air and sent to people so that they can pay their mortgages and they can pay their insurance and they can pay for food and they can have a decent, normal life as much as possible through this pandemic. And outside of the pandemic, there's no reason for us to have homeless people lying in the streets, drug addicted. They need mental health, health care. We don't need to have not health care. I mean, come on. We create money at will. The way we can have health care is by having enough doctors and enough nurses and enough hospital equipment and so on and so forth. All of these things can be had. If we don't have enough of those things right now, shame on us. We should absolutely, in the richest nation on earth, have enough hospital beds, have enough doctors, have enough nurses, have enough anesthesiologists and dentists and whatever. This is not something that we can't overcome. There's no reason that we shall pay a middleman, the insurance industry, for them just to simply take their cut. They literally provide zero in the equation of healthcare. They don't provide the healthcare. They don't implement the healthcare. They don't make the medicine. All they do is take their cut. It's okay to have capitalism for some things, as long as it's regulated as long as there aren't monopolies, as long as it's not harming the environment, as long as this capitalism isn't harming people, there has to be regulations on capitalism. But there's certain industries that should not be run for profit. That doesn't mean that they're industries that shouldn't be well paid. It means that we don't need to have a middleman collecting a profit. We can decide to pay brain surgeons however much we want to pay them to learn this skill, right? They need to go to school. They need to be able to do the work. We want those people to be paid well, just like we want to pay our teachers well, just like we want to pay our firefighters well, just like we want to have decent roads, and just like we want to have decent schools and decent hospitals and decent freaking, I don't even know, parks, libraries. We can have all of those things by hiring people to do those jobs, and by hiring people to build the buildings, maintain the buildings, protect the buildings. We can have healthy food, we can have clean water, but all of those things require labor and technology and repair. All of those things cost money. So when they talk to you about the national debt is at X amount of trillions of dollars, and you go, oh my God, the sky is falling, and then they try to tell you that, oh, you're going to have to, your children are going to have to pay this back. That is nothing but a bold-faced lie. Those dollars that are in our economy are there for a reason. They are supposed to represent our values, and they're representative of the millions of hours of labor and services and material and goods that have been purchased by the federal government. Now, when we say they purchased them with the US dollar, and those dollars were created at will via decree out of thin air. They never existed before. They said, you know what, in the year 2020, I think we ought to build this hospital. And this hospital costs whatever. Let's just say this hospital costs $50 million. And that's their 2021 endeavor for the whole federal government. Let's just pretend. They freaking spend the money. They hired the people to build it. They bought the goods, the material from the vendors who sell the material needed to build the hospital. And that's what they did. And all of those people that provided the material and provided the labor got paid a wage. And those wages don't need to be collected back in way of taxes. Those people earned that money, and they have a right to keep that money. The idea that we need to spend $5 and then go find $5 to collect it back out of our economy is just silly. We don't need to do that. We shouldn't do that. Every year that our citizens work, they are working for money, and they need to have an opportunity to save some of that money for, not for any reason. Let's say they need to save it for retirement. Maybe they want to save it for a rainy day. Maybe they'd like to go on vacation. Maybe they want to buy a bigger house. Maybe whatever. But every citizen in America who's working should be able to save some of that money to show for all the work that they do in this economy. And some of that work is thankless. And some of those people don't get paid, like mothers that stay at home with their kids. And some of those workers are being compensated at unbelievably low wages in the richest nation on earth. and they talk about, $15 an hour in 2025. $15 an hour, when the $15 an hour movement started, I believe it was in 2000 and, oh my gosh, I don't remember. I think it was 2012. I don't know. It was a while ago. When this movement started, the fight for $15 an hour at that time was barely a living wage. And I don't know how many years later it's been. I want to say that it's been approximately 10 years or longer. That fight for the $15 is not a living wage any longer. It is not a living wage. I mean, there may be a place where $15 an hour could work for somebody living in rural America that doesn't have any bills and owns their property or something. But in reality, for the majority of Americans, $15 an hour isn't a livable wage today. And the fact that Joe Biden would freaking run on $15 an hour, you notice he didn't say in his speeches while he was campaigning that, I'm going to implement $15 an hour in 2025 after I'm not even in office any longer. He didn't say that. He said, I will implement $15 an hour, right? That was pretty much the only progressive thing that he agreed to do. And he can't even do that. It is disgusting. It's disturbing. The fact that they're going to ease it in. They're talking about easing this $15. Well, we can't just, turn it on overnight, as if it's been some secret to businesses over the past 20 years as to how much it costs to live in their cities. There is no shortage of information to tell a business owner how much it costs to live in the cities by which their employees would live. So if an employer is paying their worker less than $15 an hour, or less than a living wage in other in places where it's even, where the cost of housing and everything else is even higher, if those businesses are paying these low, crappy, ridiculous wages, shame on them. And I don't feel a bit sorry for them. And if the switch gets flicked and they all of a sudden, these poor small businesses can't afford to operate, well, tough luck. And the big businesses like Walmart, are you kidding me? These businesses should be unions. Walmart should have a union, and the idea that they don't have a union and they're not paying livable wages while the owners of Walmart are the wealthiest family in the United States is absolutely disgusting. It's disturbing. It's atrocious. And we as Americans should be locking arms, and we should demand that Walmart pay its citizens. We should be striking. It shouldn't even be the workers that are striking. It should be citizens that are standing in the doorways, not turning away people from shopping at these stores. These poor workers, they need to be paid. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have the absolute power to implement this wage. And the idea that they'll hide behind some silly, non-important person called a parliamentarian who, we've never even heard of in all reality. Nobody ever talks about the parliamentarian. You're going to say that the office that holds the greatest power on the planet, Joe Biden, and his vice president, Kamala Harris, who can overrule the parliamentarian. And you're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who supposedly are all so powerful that they can't freaking get $15 an hour passed, and that they can't pass Medicare for all, and that they can't pass a freaking UBI COVID bill where they're sending people freaking automatic monthly paychecks, and that they can't take care of the back rent for these citizens that are looking where their credit is going to be getting ruined and everything else. They could put measures in place to have these citizens sign up for back rent payments or whatever. These people pay, they create money at will. They can create it at will. They can make everybody whole with a snap of the finger, with a flick of a pen, and they're not doing it because they're okay with suffering. They're okay with people having bad credit. They're okay with people's getting kicked out on the streets. They're okay with landlords losing their properties because their tenants can't pay. They're okay because at the end of the day, the super wealthy will go in and scoop up all the freaking property, and they will go ahead and raise everybody's credit scores so that they can in turn raise their interest rates on everything that they buy from this day forward, and they can raise the rates on everything they buy from this day forward. It's all a big freaking scam. They're taking advantage of you. They're screwing us over just like Obama did in 2008 when instead of bailing out the freaking people, he bailed out Wall Street. Well, it's the same freaking playbook. They're again protecting Wall Street. They're protecting their big corporations. They're protecting everybody but the people. And don't let them tell you for a second that they can't do it. If they wanted to do it, they could do it. These are excuses, bullshit excuses. And you know, I am fortunate. I have a decent paying job. I work for a company that pays their employees fairly. They pay them well. They provide health care. They are good. They're an inclusive company who has a multitude of employees. They hire all different demographics. And I'm lucky because not only is it a good company, but it's also an essential business. So I have not had to struggle through with, not having a paycheck, But I have nephews and sisters and that have. I have friends that have. I have people that are seriously struggling. And, if it isn't for their friends and family sending them money and trying to get them by, I don't know how people are doing it. And it's absolutely unbelievable that our Congress and our president, no matter who it is, whether it's Trump or Biden or whoever, that these people will sit by and allow needless suffering of its citizens. The whole reason that these people are in power is to take care of its citizens. And it doesn't mean, they need to take care of everything and blah, 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 blah. In times of need, this is a time of need. This is when we are counting on them to do the right thing by the American people. They have the power and they're not using it. That's how you know that they're sociopaths. That's how you know that they don't care. They're not on your team. Because they have all the power to do good, to be helpful, to ease the pain and suffering of millions, and they don't. That's how you know we're dealing with sociopaths. That's how you know that they're not on your side. And the fact that we've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush and Ro Khanna and Mark Pocan and Elizabeth Warren and all these people who say that they are with us, but yet they won't hold their vote. They won't withhold their vote. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't make sense. They have the power. Instead, we got Joe Manchin. We're freaking playing ball with Joe Manchin, The loser Republican from freaking West Virginia who wears a Democratic jersey just for funsies? He's no freaking Democrat. He doesn't represent the people in his state. He doesn't care. He's a millionaire. He doesn't care that his people don't have living wages. This man is puke. I don't know why these scum suckers keep getting hired. I don't know why Congress, who has an approval rating of like 4%, has a re-election rating of like 90%. Why do Americans keep rehiring the same losers that are not doing them any good? I mean, Jesus, give someone else a shot. You already, if 5 years, 10 years, 20 years isn't enough proof that these guys are not fighting for you, how much more proof do you need? Are you a glutton for punishment? I don't get it. I do not get it. The Democratic Party screwed Bernie. The media screwed Bernie. And now we're stuck with the freaking lying Republican who's wearing a blue jersey. I mean, we might as well have Trump because he's not any better. He's not. Anyways, I haven't ranted for a while. Probably nobody will listen. I don't really care. But dang it, people, we have got to lock arms. I mean, May Day, let's do it on May Day. Let's have a general strike. Let's have a fight for 15, expanded Medicare for all. We need these things now. We need a monthly UBI now. We need COVID rent relief checks for all the back rent for the past year and a half now. We need to give the people who are suffering, who are on the eviction list, hope and a chance to get through this thing with their sanity. Have a good day. Rest in peace, Eric.